Greetings, duelists, and welcome to another deck report. This is going to be a very special one. Instead of showing you everything I played this past weekend, I'm going to show you all the options that I've had for the North American WCQ, and pretty much like explain my reasoning behind all my choices. I've already have a deck in mind. I already have the deck I want to play for that event, and I'm gonna show every single deck that I tested, mainly because I'm between 2 to 3 options. If you've stuck here long enough and watched a lot of my videos, then you kind of already will get an idea of what I'm going to be playing this next weekend. But yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So I have 7 different decks that I kind of want to show, and all these decks are strategies that I actually thought about for like this really big event, and I kind of want to talk my reasoning behind all of them and whether or not these decks are justified for that event. Because who knows, maybe you are one of these people who wants to play one of these decks. So option number 1 was Gem Knight. If you saw my Gem Knight video from past week, I kind of talked about how I brushed away Gem Knights and I didn't play it for a good amount of time, despite it being a perfect moment for me to test out the deck. I think Gem Knights is incredible. I think the game plan of the deck is very solidified. I think this deck is really good at breaking boards. This deck is really good at going first or second. This deck can play a very good enough amount of non-engine. There are a lot of different variants of the deck. You got Mitsurugi, you got Nemesis, you got Fiendsmith. I'm not gonna go way too in depth with this because if you already saw my last video, I don't want to get very repetitive with this. The reason I chose not to pick Gem Knight for this next event, I have 2 big reasons. Number 1, the first reason was already fixed. I already found the fix for it. I'm not gonna explain what that fix is. If you really do want me to explain it, I'll say it in the comments and I'll write it in the comments if you're interested. But I won't say it in the video because 1, I want to see who is generally interested in like my solution to the problem that I've had with the deck. At least that one problem that I will mention. And 2, there are people that I have tested with that are contemplating this deck for that event, and I kind of want them to have the advantage if they want to play the deck. But the first issue that I found was, how do you deal with Liker Dancer with just your Gem Knight engine? Like, the only thing I thought about was Gem Knight Ruby being able to like bump Master Diamond or bump itself in order to run over it. There is another solution, like I said beforehand, but Liger being able to pop your cards is a really big deal. Like, it's kind of sad that Lady Rose Diamond only protects your Gem Knights on your opponent's turn. I really don't know why that thing has that restriction in there, but sadly enough, it is in there. The other issue that I've had with this deck is, like, Draw is really strong against this deck. Lancia is really strong against this deck. Charmies are somewhat strong against this deck, but you can just pivot into Baguska, so it's not really the worst thing ever. I just feel like this kind of strategy is a little bit too fragile for like a really long event. If you have a specific game plan with the deck, like you just want it to go second, there is one of huge advantage. The first advantage that you have is that you won't get Charmed, which is really good for the deck. Like, just not being worried about getting card advantage from Charmies is strong because Gemini is no longer an FTK deck. Like, if you resolve Neprim or Dispersion effect to add, you cannot do the full damage to your opponent. And a lot of people are playing a lot of non-engine now, so it's really hard to just FTK with the deck anymore, even if you don't resolve these two cards. But yeah, that's it for Gem Knights. Second deck was Vanquish Soul. I talked about Vanquish Soul last week. This deck is really strong. I think people will top with this deck. I think this deck is very underestimated right now. It did top Oceanic WCQ. Like, it was only one top. Well, the fact that one top made it in this past weekend with that set being legal the same day, it's still a big deal. Like, with only 1 day of the card being released in preparation, that one top might become 10 plus tops on the North American WCQ, because we've already having 1+ week to work with. We have a lot of non-engine to work with. We have this deck being topping as a foundation for the people who want to play this as well. My issue with Vanquish Soul and the reason I cannot pick it for the next event is this deck requires a lot of practice. Like, unless you are a dedicated Vanquish Soul player yourself and you've played with the deck a good fair amount of time and you know how to do good non-engine trades with all the decks in the format, you probably won't do as well with Vanquish Soul until K9 comes out. K9 makes that situation a lot easier because K9s punish your opponent from using non-engine a lot harder. It really bolsters the ceiling of this deck, the power of this deck as well. But yeah, that's it for Vanquish Soul. This is not a bad deck by any means. It's just not the right pick for me in this current format. Now we have Labyrinth. And for context, the one thing that makes Labyrinth a really good contender for this event is Trapaholic. Trapaholic is a really strong card, and this card really helps Labyrinth. And prior to Trapaholic's release, Labyrinth was not a bad pick at all. My issue with Labyrinth is it has a bad Mitsurugi matchup, and Mitsurugi is going to be in the room. Like, that is going to be a very popular deck. That deck will be topping a good amount. And that being a bad matchup for you is already not favorable, like, for this deck. Because out of your 12 plus rounds, a good chance is at least around 40% will be Mitsurugi players. Those are, I'm not gonna say guaranteed losses, but it will be like very strong uphill battles that you have to deal with. If you are a Labyrinth player and you know how to fix the Mitsurugi issue, like, you can play stuff like Dimensional Barrier in the main deck. That is a really good option that you can do. Dimensional Barrier is searchable by Trapaholic, and again, Trapaholic is a very, very strong card. I'll talk a little bit more on Trapaholic once I talk about the next deck that I considered. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if a Labyrinth player tops this event, but at the same time, I don't see Labyrinth as like the heraldry of rogue options that you can pick for that event. Next, we got Unchained. So, very similar to Labyrinth, this card also benefits from Trapaholic. Trapaholic is really strong in this deck because with Trapaholic, you can pop your Unchained traps and they become like more combo extenders or more interruptions. Like, one example I can give you is like you can Trapaholic, pop the Abominable Chamber, that will summon the Abominable Unchained Soul, that will pop you another card, and then if you dump the third trap with the Abom, that already makes whatever you're setting with Trapaholic live as another interruption. This card can play Karma Cannon really well, and Karma Cannon is a really strong card. That is another reason why I opted for Labyrinth. I think any deck that can play this card optimally is going to like have an advantage because like the Karma Cannon does a lot in this format. Outside of Mitsurugi, like this beats Raizio boards, this breaks Malice boards, this breaks even the Luna Light board. It can be broken by this. And you're probably thinking, well, what about Silverhound? Well, I mean, you can only Silverhound so much, right? Because you got stuff like Dominus Impulse, you got your other Unchained Traps. This deck can make Underworld Goddess, even though it's not in my... Well, yes, she is in my extract. This deck can make Underworld Goddess. So, that's one thing that this deck has to be wary... Lunalight has to be wary of. And not only just Lunalight, like a lot of other decks, like... you can just push through their boards with your Unchained cards. I already did a deck report on Unchained, so if you want to look at that one, I talk a little bit more in depth on why I really do like Unchained. If I were to play Unchained at that event, I probably would have played it as a Ghost second deck, and probably side the Trapaholics alongside like other really good hate cards. The fact that this deck can play Mistaken Arrest is also really strong. I think this is like one of the best side deck cards this format. For a lot of reasons. Yeah. That's it for Unchained. Another deck I really want to play was Super Quantum. And I don't mean Super Quantum Malice, I mean Super Quantum like as the full deck with the Fiendsmith cards. The two things that took me away from playing this deck is one, I did not have all the cards. I was missing Alphenspike, and literally nobody in my area had this card. I had to order them online, and by the time of this recording, it still hasn't arrived at my place yet. The other thing that I don't like about Super Quantum, and the reason I'm afraid to play this deck, even though this deck has a lot of extenders that can play like through one hand trap easily, except Nibiru. Nibiru is like the one silver bullet trap, hand trap that kind of hurts this deck, which is where the Fiendsmith stuff come in. The problem with Super Quantum that I feel like is that even though people don't know what this deck does, people are still hand trapping the right cards, at least in my experience. Like, I've had people like hand trap my Alphen and then my Satan. I had people just wait until I commit a little bit and then they, like for example, Dominus Impulsed my mech ship. Smart players will know what to do against this deck. And I will say right now, Super Quantum as an engine is really, really strong, and not a lot of people know about these cards. So if you compare this as a hybrid for other decks, like I did with Malice last week, I think you're in for a good time, because I feel like the Super Quantum engine is not really overlooked. A lot of Yugi Tugibers are talking about a lot of decks right now, and they're not talking about Super Quantum, which means this deck will be on nobody's radar. But again, this does require a lot of practice. This deck is the new Ritual Beast, pretty much in my opinion. The reason I like compare it to Ritual Beast is like it's this one combo deck that can do a lot of things, but it has a lot of different sequences, and not many people know how to play those sequences. Another issue with this deck is it's very similar to Vanquish Soul. Like, if you have not practiced with this deck or this engine, like, you probably are not gonna do well. Especially if your opponent just tries to like pummel you with hand traps. Another choice, Lunalight. If you've been in this channel, you already know that I really like Lunalight. I really like this deck. I'm a very big fan of like Shit Tiger, like the whole Shit Tiger combination. This deck did not top the North American, the Oceanic WCQ. It did not top the last WCQ, which was the Oceanic one. I think it has to do more with the fact that the set just came out and not many people like were versing off with the deck. But the other thing about Lunalight is this deck is being heavily respected right now. Like, if you remember what happened to Malice when Alliance Insight came out, the same thing pretty much happened with Lunalight. A lot of people feared this deck. A lot of people didn't want this deck to do well. A lot of people like had a lot of hate for it, and I think that garnered hate bullied the deck out of top cut, like out of getting top cut contention. I think in the right hands, Lunalight has what it takes. I think this deck might top. I think really good players that know what they're doing with this deck might have a really strong chance to top. But this deck is very heavily targeted right now. And I would know. I played both Lunalight and Lunalight hybrids. So this kinda is a discarded option for me. The last deck I want to talk about is Tistina. So, before you click off the video, because I know a lot of people are going to be thinking, why is this like an option for you? I actually tested Tistina, and I actually think it's not a bad deck. Like, the new card that the deck received really helps the deck a lot. Like, the deck has a few one card combos now that give you like a lot of card advantage, and in the right hands, I think this deck could catch people off guard. There are some side engines you can play. There's a lot of non-engine you can play as well. This deck provides follow-up. It provides multiple interruptions. It provides... the deck can easily OTK as well. Funnily enough, this deck has a really good Vanquish Soul matchup as well, especially if you go second. The number one reason you have a good matchup against the deck is because of Divine Domain Batistina. This card is really good against Vanquish Soul because not only does this get you to your engine if your opponent has their Vanquish Soul set up, if they try to blow up this card, like they get punished for it. And setting up Crystal God is strong against Vanquish Soul. Like, Vanquish Soul has no real way to beat Crystal God outside of Holy Sue and maybe Dr. Madlove. So, yeah. I think the best side engine for Tistina is Azamina. I think the Azamina cards really help out this deck. Like, it provides interruption, it provides pushing power. I had one game, you can see it in my community tab, but I had one game where I OTK'd my Lunalight opponent because I summoned Saint Azamina alongside Ilia Sylvia. And like this, attacking my opponent and crashing for exactly over 8k damage or around 70 something damage is really strong, especially if like they do heavy polymerization plays against you. A lot of people are not thinking about that. Another really cool thing about the Azamina cards is they don't conflict with Miasma Dragon. Miasma Dragon has the effect where if it's special summoned, you cannot special summon from graveyard or your hand unless they're Tistina monsters. The Azamina engine does not care about that. The Bellstar special summon is not an effect to special summon, so you are still allowed to summon, like especially but yeah, like these are all the options that I contemplated. I think the North American WCQ is going to be very interesting. I think we are going to see someone top with something obscure and just catch people off guard. At least I'm really hoping for it. I'm just aiming to have a good time because right now the format is a little bit sporadic. I think Duelist Advanced does a way better job than people are giving it credit for. And yeah, I hope you found this informative to your liking, understanding. Good luck to everybody playing at the North American WCQ. for those like tuning in to the live stream this weekend, I am going to play a really cool deck. If I do well, I might even get a feature match. Either way, I will make a blog post. I will talk about my deck later next week after I come back. I do want to do a lot over there. So yeah, stay tuned. This is probably going to be my only video this week, just because I'm flying over to the States and I'm going to like practice with other duelists. But yeah, hope you have a nice week. Keep practicing and keep dueling.